Welcome to the Real Estate and Wealth Podcast, your go-to resource for navigating the world of real estate investing and wealth creation. This podcast is brought to you by Calvert Home Mortgage Investment Corporation, your trusted, caring, and responsive short-term mortgage lender in Alberta and Ontario. We explore strategic and tactical solutions to elevate your real estate portfolio, drawing insights from seasoned Canadian investors and trusted advisors. In each episode, we dive into various aspects of real estate investing, including market trends, property analysis, financing strategies, risk management, and much more. Whether you're a seasoned real estate investor looking to expand your portfolio or a beginner taking those first steps, this podcast is for you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Real Estate and Wealth. Joining us today is Terra Snyder of Accurate Home Inspections.
Correct.
Terra, introduce yourself, please.
Well, I'm the owner and founder of Accurate Home Inspections. I've been at it about 15 years. My background is as a journeyman carpenter. So I had a good background for becoming an inspector. And also my family builds log houses. So I kind of always have been in the at least on the edge of the construction industry. Didn't have much of a hope of getting away from it. So yeah, I just migrated towards home inspection just because it's really hard. Migrated away from carpentry because it can be really hard. And I just decided it's better to use the big muscle rather than all those little ones that hurt and break and
that. It's tough to be a carpenter for a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was, since I was a kid doing probably too hard of work,
Cool.
Yeah. So started doing this. I really found it was hard, like the transition.
Okay.
Right? Because when you're a carpenter, you're looking at how can I do the best job? And then as a home inspector, you're looking at it as how did someone screw that up? How are they trying to hide stuff?
Yes.
Or what's the mystery? How do all these pieces fall into this deficiency? Right. So you really got to use your imagination even to figure out, to travel a problem backwards to find the beginning of what and why. And then people just do things to their houses for really weird reasons.
Yep. Totally.
So it can be very puzzling as to why. And clients are always asking, why did they do that? And I'm like, I have no idea why.
Yeah.
I can tell you what it's like today. I can't tell you why they did it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love the background in the trade and going from using all the muscles to the biggest muscle.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how interesting it would have been where, you were so focused on no deficiencies to being focused on identifying the deficiencies, the cause of the deficiencies. And I guess ideally you're tasked with ideas on how to solve the deficiencies or not. Right? Like either you live with them or you solve them. And you're always making those decisions as a homeowner or a real estate investor.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's a judgment call for the people too. Like for when you're getting to know your clients, like some of them, you can tell, like, as you're with them for 3 hours.
Right.
You can tell they don't want to deal with anything.
Right.
Or they're pretty handy. They've either been through YouTube University or they're willing to go to YouTube University and they can tackle some things on their own, or at least they can align, like find contractors they trust and get those repairs professionally. It depends on the scope of the issue, but yeah, you got to get to know your clients a bit as well to know their capabilities.
Yeah, totally. And their desire even, right?
Absolutely.
They may be capable, but why? Like, I don't.
They
that
couldn't
deficiency is good. Good enough. Yeah, that's interesting. So when we were first chatting before we started, the idea here is to provide as much valuable information as possible to our listeners. The bulk of our listeners are going to be in the real estate business. A lot of them are going to be real estate investors. So from the perspective of them, why is it important to use the services of a trusted inspector? What should they be considering when making a decision either to hire an inspector or who to hire as an inspector?
Yeah.
And the why?
Well, there's so much unknown, right? And it's tough to know when, especially some investors who never see a property, they get to go through it with FaceTime,
Which is a lot
on there, but with a realtor.
Yeah.
So you really can't get a good scope of the quality. Maybe someone else was fixing it up before they listed it, and they did some really bad workmanship or tried really hard to hide stuff. So there's just red flags that can be obvious when you're there looking at the whole scope of the home for the 3 hours that it takes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just important to make sure there's just so much that can be hidden, structural issues, or, is there water dripping out of the exterior wall from, like literally dripping outside the wall. Like There's just so many things that would never show up in a quick viewing that could potentially be really significant issues. And even if someone lived there, they might not notice the clues until it's too late.
Right.
So yeah, it's just a really important step to protect the investment, to get a good backside knowledge of the property.
Yeah, totally. Whether it's the investment for future resale, for future rent, or the bulk of your clients are going to be, I'm sure, homeowners.
Yeah.
People who plan to own this for a long period of time.
Exactly.
And so I think, to your point, regardless of who you are as a buyer, the cost benefit is clear to me, and I'm shocked that
it is.
Some people don't see that. Like, again, before we were on camera, and maybe I'll let you talk to the theme you're seeing today because of the hot real estate market in Calgary, and what you're seeing with home inspections.
Well, there's a lot of, depending on the price range of the property, especially a little bit lower price range, like below the 800s, but even definitely below the 600s. There's so many people moving to Alberta and to Calgary that, and lots of them, again, never having seen the property. And so if there's 2 or 8 offers on a property, a couple of them or a lot of them will not include a home inspection condition.
Right.
Because they won't get their offer accepted, right? Because someone else will have offered a little bit extra and no financing and no home inspection condition. Yeah. So, I know there's a lot of bad houses, not bad houses, but houses with issues getting sold.
Right.
Because they know it's the perfect time to get out from under this
right
house. And maybe it's a house they bought in 2008 when they had to buy, when it was another hot market, and they had to buy a house without conditions.
Yes.
Right. So, the thing that happens a few years after these hot markets is people trying to get out from under and trying to sell these houses. But now those sellers, the new buyers, are getting home inspections. I did a house in Tuscany after the 2008 hot market, and there was literally a spring coming out of the basement and flowing out the lawn into the back alley, like water flowing out. There's algae growing in the alley in their backyard, and they tried to just put up a drywall on the bottom 4 feet of the basement to hide it so that we wouldn't see it, because we're not allowed to take off drywall during an inspection, but we did. And but they had bought the house without a home inspection in 2007 or 2008. And now it's 2011 and they know there's a problem and they just want to get rid of that house, right? Because they can't afford to deal with it. So yeah, like that's what's going to happen down the road after this hot market slows down a bit, for sure.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And it has me thinking of, okay, we're unconditional, we're buying it no matter what, theoretically.
Yeah. Though
I think there's still value in understanding your home.
Yeah.
And understanding what needs to be done. It may be a bad realization, but there's still, I think, value there.
There's still a realization that needs to be made. Right. You still need to know the condition of the property. And I mean, there's certainly instances where the house is good and you can tell just during your viewing.
Totally.
Right. But there's still, I would say 15 to 20% of houses that have a major concern.
Right.
Obviously, most houses have an average amount of average concern.
20% of have a major.
Yeah, I would say.
And how would you classify a major concern?
I mean, if a shower leaks onto the living room floor, water leaks out the wall of the siding, asbestos in the attic, the seller's swearing up and down that they've got rid of all of the knob and tube wiring from their old house, and you find live knob and tube wiring. Those are things that are going to be more than like $5,000 to fix often.
And also, whether it's today, but they can, unless taken care of, evolve into
much bigger
problems.
Yeah.
I and again, I'm not an expert at this or providing legal advice, but I know, like, even if it's unconditional, there's still representations and warranties within that I think, like, if you find a major defect and it's clear to the seller and they haven't surfaced that, that's a term of, I'll use a lender term because that's what I know, but let's call it, that's a term of default. Like, you can terminate the contract if you find that. So even in that,
but then you have to prove that they knew?
Sure. But if there's a spring running through the house, how could they not know?
Hey, how can you prove they did? Because I have this conversation with realtors a few times a year. Like, because it comes up during an inspection. It's like, how did they not disclose this glaringly obvious, seemingly issue already?
Totally.
And they didn't. They're acting surprised that, we had no idea. But there's almost, in my mind, no way they didn't know.
And to that point, like, again, so the realtors are a bit conflicted. But a lawyer, if we had a lawyer here, it'd be interesting to ask he or she their perspective on that. Because certainly they could say, you knew, send it to the seller. Maybe the seller fights it, collapse the contract, and move on.
Yeah.
But I would suspect if I were going in, me personally, and I decided to go unconditional, and then I did you still have to negotiate some sort of tour, though. Like, how are they going to get you in before closing? Anyhow, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting trend.
Yeah. But I mean, how do realtors? I mean, I know that a lot of realtors have told me that that this comes up and that the buyers it's a real problem to win their case.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to who our audience is, real estate investors, realtors, mortgage brokers, people in the business of real estate. And you've talked about your background. We've talked about kind of what we're seeing in a hot market. I really want to dig into, some themes as it relates to deficiencies you see. Like I think that would be some really good tactical information for our listeners. So, like, I would suspect you'd have certain themes of certain age of houses and when they were last renovated.
Yes. You can walk into a house and know. Oh, this house was renovated in 2005. Because it's got sage green carpets and it was, or in 1999 because it has gold fixtures or whatever. So there's also deficiency stuff that is right. So poly B piping in Calgary, 1980 till 1999.
Okay.
Most every house, unless it was custom
which basically
built,
needs to be torn out immediately.
It does not.
It doesn't.
It does not.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of problems with poly B.
Yeah.
But not every house that has poly B is going to have a problem.
Really?
An analogy I like to talk to my clients about is if you think of a roll of piping coming up from the States, which is where most of our stuff comes from, it's a giant roll of pipe. And one of the problems why poly B gets leaks is because it was a bad formula of plastic.
Right.
when it was exposed to UV rays, whether that's while it's on a giant roll of pipe or if it's trucking around on the plumber's van, the roof of their van. But on a roll of pipe, if the sun gets to one or two areas or layers of that pipe, and then it's going to have deficiencies. Right, the first two houses off of that roll are going to have deficiencies. The pipe that's underneath on that roll is not much more prone to being problematic than an average PEX house.
But how do you test? How can you tell that?
You don't. Well, I mean, there are things that can be done, but again, it would be random. Which pipe do you test?
Yeah, totally. Like that's what I mean by how do you test. Like, but it could be anywhere in the house.
But also, not every plumbing leak that is in a poly B house is a poly B leak, right? Like
totally.
PEX houses with PEX have leaks. Houses with copper have leaks. So one of the things you can do, because when this poly B is deteriorating, it does deteriorate from the inside out. So maybe if you're getting leaks in the middle of a section of pipe, you probably have a poly B problem. If you're getting leaks at a connection, and maybe there's one, maybe there's three, but maybe it's a crimper problem. Right. And that's workmanship. That's the plumber.
Right.
Or, who put that in. So
we have poly B.
Yeah.
We acknowledge that we have poly B. We acknowledge that there can be this issue.
Yeah.
And then what?
Other issues or
no.
More on poly B?
We'll just hit on poly B and move to other themes and issues. But
I mean,
okay, so I got a poly B house.
Yeah.
Great, I acknowledge it. I would imagine you're going to tell me look out for leaks, like you just said,
absolutely.
Specifically in the middle.
Yeah.
But we can live with poly B, especially like I guess if it was built in 80 and you got poly B and
it's an insurance issue a lot.
We're 40 years. Yeah, that's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
Like.
So some insurance companies won't insure a house with poly B.
I bought a house that was built in the early 2000s, and my insurer's like, "Oh, that's poly B. We're not insuring it."
Right.
No, this isn't poly B. Sure enough, it wasn't poly B, but no issue with insuring. But I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Like they were so quick to qualify the house as uninsurable.
But
But you can find insurers.
Oh, you can.
You just might have to mess around a bit.
Every single house in Calgary and Edmonton and Alberta and Canada for 20 years used poly B.
Yeah.
So all those houses have insurance.
Yeah.
So you can find companies. You'll pay a bit more, and then replacement is often. I mean, of course, everything in the world has doubled in the last 4 years. So it used to be around like $3,000 or $4,000 to replace the poly B.
To replace poly B throughout your house?
For the plumbing.
Right.
Then you got your drywall work. Drywall work is where the big cost is, usually. The plumbing work itself is I think it's still in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. It depends on the layout of the house and, are all your bathrooms stacked on top of each other or are they scattered all over and they're going to have to do a lot to get to all those pipes to replace them.
Yeah. What other themes are you seeing in houses? And for the audience's knowledge, Terra and her company operate specifically in Calgary and surrounding area.
Yeah.
So other themes that you're seeing as it relates to deficiencies that people should be watching for, even early in the buying process, right? Like where should they be looking out for as it relates to deficiencies that you're seeing consistently?
Oh, just homeowner maintenance, right? Most deficiencies, you can tell if they've never repaired a single thing ever, right? Or very little, you can tell.
Which, by the way, are the favorite purchases of our buyers, right? Like they're trained to buy these neglected, underutilized housing stock and knowing that they're going to need to go in and add value through renovations, through replacing things, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for the homeowner, or I should say the non-real estate investor listener, one quick sign would be that pride of ownership, we'll call it. Would that be right?
It's a great term.
Yeah.
It's a great term. You can tell, did they just clean up to list it? Or is this place always clean?
Right.
Do they have pride and ownership?
Lipstick on a pig, so
exactly. To speak. I mean, did they see a little sprout of a problem and go and fix it right away? Yeah. Or do they see a little sprout of a problem and close the door to that room?
Right.
So
yeah, house is like somebody compared a house to be like a living thing, and if you're not taking care of a living thing, it's going to deteriorate
and grow. Right, your left knee hurt. My husband needed one of his knees replaced, and he put it off until he couldn't walk because his other hip hurt so bad. Right, so houses are the same. If one problem may show and stack on in other areas for sure.
Good.
But there's eras of homes, right? So in 1970 to 75, there's aluminum wiring. Right. So, which is manageable. Aluminum is a good conductor. It just expands and contracts more than copper. So it has to be dealt with properly at each end of the wire, like in the panel and at the fixture.
So you're just going to do more inspecting as it relates to how it is installed, call it, for lack of a better term.
Well, the unfortunate thing with that is we can't see inside the walls.
Right.
So, no.
We're only doing so a much visual
inspection. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What other things are we looking for in certain ages?
Well, of course, in the 50s, 60s, 40s, electrical, right? Your houses aren't going to be grounded. But there again, there's good solutions for that, and it does not include replacing all the wiring. Right. If you have a 1950s house and it has the 2-prong plugs, which a lot of them still do, and a 2-prong plug does not need repair. What needs repair is if it's a 3-prong outlet with the ground wire, the ground prong, but it doesn't have a ground. Right. That's when it's a problem. You plug something in and you're expecting to have that protection from a ground. And you don't. But what they're doing is, so all the wires throughout the house will come in to an area near the panel, and they'll put in a series of GFCIs.
Right.
And run the wires through that and then into the panel. And now that circuit will be protected with a ground, but it won't show up as a ground when you're testing an outlet, but it will be protected with a ground. So these are just like retrofit type of solutions because replacing all the wiring in the house is not plausible, not economical,
typically,
and not necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more that cost benefit, right?
Yeah.
Which all real estate investors are considering. What is the cost versus the benefit?
Yeah.
Knowing full well that there's a high likelihood that when they go to sell, they're going to get an inspection, and they want to make sure that they're selling a quality product and can get in front of the issues too.
Yeah. Sewer's always a big thing too for certain ages. Like in the 70s, you're it's a much better updated plastic drain piping, before sewer line. Yeah, before that, I mean, it was clay tile. I mean, it's cast in the houses, which is shattering. It's clay tile underground, or it's like a paper mache mixture of bitumen and cardboard. Let's say.
Right.
So
ticking time bomb.
What's that?
A ticking time bomb.
A ticking time bomb. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that I do is when I go into a house, I run the water at every single faucet the entire time I'm in the home.
Right.
I fill one of the bathtubs with hot water so I can make sure the water heater's making an appropriate amount of hot water.
Yeah.
And then everything's draining. I'm flushing toilets all at the same time. Just to make sure.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah, just to make sure there's a lot of strain put on the sewer system as much as possible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a like, I'm thinking, like, if I'm a buyer, right, going in with my realtor for a viewing, it's a weird thing to do, but why not? Like, I'm testing.
You totally could.
Right? So then, because if you identify something there, then right away when you're bringing your home inspector in, you're already saying, hey, I know there's an issue here that you guys can talk about.
Yeah.
Or I believe there's an issue here that you can really dig into.
But I mean, I do recommend, older houses for sure, having a sewer scope.
Of course.
At the time of, like, for sure before your conditions are waived. I mean, the other day I was over in Woodbine or somewhere like that, Willow Park, I can't remember. And we could hear water running when we were outside at the garage. We could hear a flow of water.
Right.
Because the pipe had severed and the water, only a part of it was going out the sewer line to the city sewer. It was pooling underground,
somewhere
potentially making a sinkhole.
Crazy. Right?
So, and you just hear it.
Yeah. Don't need to run a scope to do that.
No,
to know
exactly.
That is an issue there.
Exactly. But you would never catch that on a viewing. Right. So yeah, there's lots of, when you're inspecting, it's all of your senses. You're always on.
All of your
You're
senses.
100% on.
Plus all that experience, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. But just knowing, is a sound normal? Why am I hearing dripping? Is that splash into the bottom of the water in the tub? Is it hitting water or is it hitting the bottom of the tub?
Right.
Because maybe the drain is slow and you've already walked away from that tub, right? You need to be paying attention to just all the sounds of different things going on in the house.
Mm-hmm. So let's think about, again, the individual buyer. Are there other tips and tricks that they can be doing during the buying process before they bring in the inspector to identify where they really dig into things that you guys can discuss at more depth?
I think just being super observant. Right? Like, I'm not going to say full on take a flashlight, but I mean, I would, but I'm a little nerdy like that.
Yeah.
Take a flashlight and just really have a look around. Like, are the windows fogged?
And when you see something you question, why not take a picture? Right? Like, I don't know anything about. I'm handy enough to be dangerous. Like watching YouTube video, I think I could do it.
Yeah.
But I've learned long ago that I should just hire someone. But still, I can still be like, oh, that's weird. I'm going to take a picture and document so that we can talk about it.
Exactly. And I mean, especially when I've done an inspection for a client before, they know they can text me that picture.
Right.
You can text it to me right now. And if I can, I will look at it and answer while you're still in the house.
Right.
Or else I will do it at the end of the day or whenever. And a lot of realtors are like, what? Click. Send me a photo of that. And, what do you think of this? I just got one the other day where
will most of the realtors be on the buyer side?
Yes.
Very seldom do the seller side be like, hey, what about this?
Very, very seldom.
Very seldom.
Yes. I mean, there's been the odd one where they're listing a property. They want to know, is this something we have to disclose or is this just we carry on and list it and not say anything?
Yeah. What level of concern do we have here?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So we talked a bit about themes.
Yeah, but again, just keeping your eyes open during the inspection.
Documenting.
Yeah, but I'm saying things like when you're going and doing your showing or your viewing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just really got to pay attention. Look at grout lines. Look at a lot
basically
of people.
Craftsmanship.
Exactly, workmanship, craftsmanship. Level of pay attentionness.
Yeah.
That's a new word I just made up.
And I was thinking as we talked about themes for age of house. We know real estate is super localized and every neighborhood has different environmental effects. Like, do you see any common themes as it relates to the location of the home?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, look at Langdon. I mean, their water table is at the surface virtually,
Right.
Like, I've been in houses in Langdon and they got 2+ sump pumps.
Yeah.
And they are running nonstop.
Mm-hmm,
right. And I mean, again, back to the sewer issue, you get to know the areas that have sewer problems because it's an old product that just can't keep up anymore. So yeah, there's certainly, I mean, and look at 2010 when high efficiency furnaces came in. What that happened was that's a major contributor to attic rain.
Right.
And like, we're always hearing about attic rain now, and
particularly
really,
in Calgary for the listeners, an attic rain is
a massive amount of condensation buildup in the attic.
Yeah.
So,
it typically is from freeze thaw.
Well, typically it's because we have the Chinook thaw.
Right.
That's so fast.
Right.
Nothing has time to evaporate if there is a buildup.
Yes.
Right. But part of the problem was that in 2010, when high efficiency furnaces came in,
now
we no longer have a chimney.
Yeah.
And the chimney used to help vent the house.
Yes.
So now your furnace turns on and maybe the electrician, there's some extra holes poked in the vapor barrier. up into the attic. And now when your furnace turns on, it pressurizes your house. It's forcing warm air up through the light fixtures or the attic hatch door.
And then you get condensation build up around.
Not just around it. It's wherever there's a perforation in the vapor barrier.
Right.
So, and if it's a proper attic is the same temperature as it is, or similar as it is outside. So if it's minus 25 or minus 30 outside, it's minus 25 in your attic.
Yeah, okay.
So then, I mean, I've been in houses that literally have an inch of frost all throughout massive portions of the attic. And if we have a nice slow warm up, then a lot of that will evaporate. If we have a Chinook that goes to plus 15 the next day.
Which for listeners not in Calgary, these weather events happen like 10 times a year. Where it goes from literally minus 20 to plus 20 within a 24-hour period.
Yeah. So we have the massive warm front kind of ramps up over the mountains from BC and crashes down on Calgary. Gives us a massive temperature swing, and then all that frost melts and literally rains down into the attic, and you have water pouring out of your light fixtures and exhaust fans. And I mean, a little bit of water stain in an exhaust fan, super common.
Right.
Have someone go up there and tighten the pipe to the fan so there's no air escaping. That's really common. But again, this never happened before. Virtually never happened before 2010.
Right.
We never had those problems.
Before high efficiency furnaces.
Yeah.
So another good tip, like if you have a high efficiency furnace, you're going to do more research and inspection on the potential for attic rain.
Yeah.
Right. One thing I wanted to chat about, like any new developments in the home inspection industry as it relates to using tools, technology, to provide a better, I know you'll see it in better service, right? Like now you'll have templated reports and you can easily provide, and maybe let's talk about what you provide the client, but are you seeing anything, are you using anything new, or are you seeing anything on the horizon that's going to make your product or service better?
I mean, I've been at this 15 years and I've been droning roofs. I do make every effort to go on as many roofs as possible. And I know a lot of inspectors don't, but you just can't, you can see so much more with your eyes than you can with a drone.
Totally.
So I do make every effort, but so drones, I've been droning for 13 years and also,
and that would be on roofs that you just can't access.
Exactly. Like they're too steep or too high.
Right.
Everyone wants 9-foot ceilings now. And I mean, I carry a 26-foot ladder. It doesn't reach to on a lot of these.
On your 2 stories.
Yeah, on all of these 2-story houses. But then also thermal imaging is pretty much standard now.
Yeah, it is.
If your home inspector doesn't have a thermal imaging
like how long
camera,
have you been using your thermal imaging camera?
I mean, my second year.
So you would have been an early adopter.
Absolutely. But what I did, again, I'm a little bit nerdy. I kept track of the calls back then and I started asking callers, or they would ask me if you have a thermal imaging camera, and then I would say no, and I would write that down and I noted it. I could have paid for a camera in 2 months.
Yeah, you should have bought it as soon as they came out, or as soon as you heard the first question.
Exactly.
But you never know, because it may just be a fad. There may be no use, but clearly you see a high.
But then I got all those bookings forever after.
Right. So I suspect, thinking about and I'm not trying to take business away from you, but thinking about a valuable tool for our real estate investors who are buying houses, multiple a year, why not have that tool?
Oh, I mean, a good one, mine's an average quality. It was $8,000.
So they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. I mean, there are lesser ones that do an okay job, but kind of one of the best things I find with the thermal camera is so I go in, I run cold water every single location the whole time I'm in there. But then at the end, I go back to the top of the house, shut everything off, and thermal scan underneath everything. So it's just not something you're going to maybe do.
And then even understand the imaging.
I get a lot of calls and plenty from realtors saying, oh, the the home inspection report on this listing that I have says this. Can you look at this image? And it's like
to just let the professional use it.
Yeah.
And I haven't asked, and I don't even know if you're able or willing to share. What should somebody be prepared to pay for a home inspection on an average? Let's say 1,000 square foot bungalow or 1,500 square foot 2-story.
If it's newer than 1980, I charge anywhere from $500 to $540, depending on the season. Okay. If when it's older, it gets a little bit more expensive, but just in like $25 increments. It's not until you get to the 80-plus-year-old houses, then it goes up to like $100 more or something.
Right. So and again, I recommend, even if you are a seasoned veteran tradesperson and you are trying to conduct as much of the inspection on yourself as possible, for $550, it's a no-brainer to have a trained professional. And going back to the camera, so $500, 7,000, that's 14 inspections before you can pay it off.
Yeah.
That is a lot of home buying. So, going back to the cost benefit, and it's
not just the
to me,
camera.
it's a no-brainer.
It's the knowledge.
That's what I mean.
Looking at the camera.
Being able to interpret the imaging, being able to advise on, is this an issue? Is this not an issue? And the camera component is just one. The thermal imaging is just one very small component of everything you're doing.
Yeah.
So let's get into what does a normal home inspection look like? What does the client leave with?
Yeah.
Let's
one of the other things I was thinking about when I was prepping for this is because there's not an awful lot that has changed in technology really, other than report. Okay, and I'm talking in the last 5 years. Let's say new. Right. Drones have been around for 15 years. Thermal's been around for 15 years.
And to your point, drones are not even close to as ideal for the listeners as you getting up on that roof.
Absolutely.
So
I grew up with a crane as a play toy.
Right.
So I'm far from afraid of heights.
So now their tip there would be make sure your home inspector's walking the roof.
Whenever.
Unless they have a really good reason as to why not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but a lot of them, their really good reason is just that they can't or don't want to.
Because I'm thinking, before I knew this, if somebody showed up with a drone, I'd be like, oh, this guy's badass. Like, look at, they're droning my property rather than getting up on the roof. But no, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
They should be they're going to identify way more issues by getting up on that roof than by flying a fancy drone around and you're not
looking cool.
You're looking cool.
Yeah.
So that's another really good tip.
I get a hard time a bit because I drive a car, but even when I started, I carry a 26-foot ladder in the car. So you don't have to drive up to an inspection with a big truck.
Right.
Optics, right? It is. Everything. But people like they are quite a bit, especially back in the day. For one, they're just amazed that I'm a woman and just wasn't the woman that answered the phone. Oh my God.
Yeah,
you're the inspector?
I could see a bit of bias there.
Oh yeah. I only came out of the closet per se as a woman in 2021.
Like from the business standpoint.
I asked all my clients to not use my name in a review and not say she or her until 2021 or 2022. Yeah.
And is that because you built such a reputable brand?
It's because people would cancel when they found out that the inspector was a woman.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But now, I should have came out long before I did.
Right.
Because now I'm busier than ever and I don't have to deal with those people that didn't want to have a woman.
Right.
Right. So I really wish I would have done it years and years sooner.
Oh, that's such
because it's every day is not a fight where you get out of the car and so-and-so's dad is like, oh
now they're almost feeling like you bait and switched.
They do.
Whereas
they are mad at
back then. Whereas now you're out front. Hey, I know I'm an expert at this. I care about my work. Yeah.
And I've been around a while. So
I've been around a while.
Must be doing all right.
Yeah. And hopefully stuff like this helps. But that's really a shitty story that you couldn't do that because of.
Realistically, I've been dealing with it most of my life as in the trades.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh my God, you've got a woman on your site. Let's go see.
Right.
Right. So
it is what it is. It's still dominated.
I also have 4 brothers. So,
Right. Although you would think that now as the newer generation is on these sites, they'd be more accepting.
They can be. They can be. It's not, I wouldn't say it's either way.
Right.
You can't say it's older people that are more prejudiced or younger people. Like I've had the odd, fairly young person, and I'm surprised that they're like
an asshole.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
So what were we talking about before that?
Well, before two ago, is we were talking about the technology.
Yes.
So one of the really only newer additions is reporting. Right? Like,
right.
So the reporting, like my report gives you access to an over 300-page home reference manual. It gives you
basically an owner's manual.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
It gives you seasonal and annual home maintenance checklists. It gives you estimating and price guides, right?
Oh, amazing.
That are good for like all of Canada, right? So, if you have these 5 issues, you can go and look at the estimating and price guide at the end of every report and see that that's going to be approximately $7,000 to $8,000, $9,000 to repair such and such.
Right.
So yeah.
That's
so reports are getting a lot better than they ever used to be, for sure. So I would say that's probably one of the main improvements in technology.
Which to me is one of the most important aspects of the home, that user manual, that owner's manual. Like, think like for $500 to $600, you're getting a trained professional come in and covering your butt in terms of assets, in terms of knowing what the issues are, but also like, here's where to find this, here's where to find that, like saving you potentially a ton of hours and a ton of stress. Reference the manual. Like, again, from somebody who doesn't understand the technical component yet still wants to do it. Mm-hmm. I need to know what the stuff is, and to have a reference guide is amazing value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I try to give a lot of extra value. I haven't advertised in probably 7 or 8 years.
Oh, cool.
90+% of my work is referral.
Yeah.
I do have a new inspector as well now. So what I've done is I give him the Google work, right? Any work referral that comes in from Google, I give him, and then I use until we grow the business more.
Until he's ready to. Well,
he's ready. Like, he's a great inspector.
But to the point, like either you grow your brand and people are looking to do business with you, realtors, mortgage brokers, homeowners, and then that flywheel starts going and you don't have to advertise. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And then also I try to, I have a few things I give my clients. So one of my favorite things also that I give my clients is, I give all my clients a really good talk at the beginning of the inspection. And I often offer, like, if you can't come to the inspection, let's have your realtor do a video call, like as an intro.
But I think to that point, I'm going to hijack us again. Yeah. You got to go to the inspection.
Like
how can you not make time?
I agree.
3 hours to
but
sit
a lot of inspectors say, don't come till the end, or don't come until.
And what's the rationale?
It's distracting.
Right.
It
like
can be hard.
Like me who's but
it can be, and how many people are at the inspection, right? So how many Uncle Bob and Dad and
But I would suspect that's in your pre-talk. Like, hey,
it is.
I'm here to execute my job as best possible. I'm going to be sharing.
Yep.
Stay out of my way and let me do my thing.
Yep.
And
much more diplomatic than that. And I give a rundown of the order I'm going to do the entire inspection, and I say, hold your questions until I'm in that area.
Cool.
And it's kind of funny. I get a chuckle because lots of people will ask a question, and then their spouse or whoever, hey, we're not in that area. Don't ask that question yet.
So the people that don't want them there because of the distraction, they're just not doing a good job educating on, hey, here's what I'm about to do. Yeah. Here's why we're here. hold it till this period. We'll
Yeah.
have tons of time.
Yeah.
Just let me execute.
And you have to be able
my
to
job.
tell your clients, I'll get to that.
Yeah,
when
it's
we
the
get to that.
communication piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I give a really good talk at the beginning of an inspection to kind of set the expectation. But then also I've been making little sheets where, so after like 15 years of doing this, I've got like a homeowner tips sheet.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I gather up all the questions that home buyers have been, a lot of the questions
Like,
that home buyers have been asking. And you know, like when to change your furnace filter. Have you got fog in your windows, like a lost seal in your windows?
Right.
Well, I've got a tip on there how you can check all your windows to see if they have a lost seal, because it's not always visible.
Well, I got a lost seal. What do I do?
What do you do? How do you
I
so
think
you might have
so on one big I got an older built in 42, renovated thoroughly, but a lot of the windows haven't been.
right.
Got a big window, and
They're double pane though. Well, they have to be, or they wouldn't be a
maybe
lost seal.
triple. But there's that fog.
Yeah.
From what I gather, I'm gonna have to bite the bullet eventually and replace it if I don't like the fog.
So yeah, because it is somewhat just a cosmetic issue.
Yeah.
So there are some companies that will come in and clean in between the panes and reseal it. I don't advocate
That's what
that.
I've heard.
I don't advocate
Don't
that.
don't do that. You
it
just
doesn't.
gotta bite the bullet.
I've been in too many houses that it didn't even last a year.
Right.
But there's a lot of windows, and it depends on the manufacturer. But you can take components of the window apart, take out the glazing, and put in new glazing.
But I may as well just replace the window because it's I'm
half
sure
the
I'm
cost.
losing.
It's half the cost.
And yeah, that's good. But it is cosmetic for my.
Yeah.
I'll point to this for
Yeah.
my wife because I'm like, honey, I've looked into it. It's cosmetic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I get we don't like if we were to sell it, maybe we would change it. But we plan to live in there for a very long time and eventually do another big reno.
And a window has an R value. I mean, the glass it's like 3.
Right.
And then if your 1980 house has sealed 2-pane window, R value of 3, your brand new 2024 window is going to have an R value of maybe 4.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They're still really
So
low.
it's not that.
It's still just glass.
The efficiency is
It's just glass.
bullshit, for lack of a better term.
I mean, I'm not a huge advocate of
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a window salesman. I'm a window maintenance. These people that say, oh, your windows are 25 years old, we must replace. This is criminal if you ask me.
Right.
Like,
And there's another great tip for buyers and sellers. Like explain to me the value, like have the trusted advisor explain to you the value in replacing the window. And if they're saying our value, then go and actually, because won't they all be like, don't they have to have some sort of disclaimer on what the actual R value is? Is that tested, or can they just put anything out there?
oh, they can't lie.
Right.
But you mean the manufacturer?
Yeah.
What?
Like when the manufacturer is selling a window,
Yeah.
do they not have to state what the R value is for that window?
I'm sure they do, but they have ways of like saying, oh, it's full of argon gas, or it's
selling around it.
yes.
But
yes.
really, it gets down to
It
if
can
you're
be hard to
selling
get
on-
a number out of them.
right. But at the end of the day, if they're saying efficiency, the best way to gauge that is what is the R value?
Yeah. I think you'll be hard to find them put a number on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Another great tip.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you leave your clients with this amazing.
I put labels on all of the tabs there. I also give all my clients a 5-year roof leak warranty, as well as a 90-day warranty on mechanical, structural, mold, and sewer. So if the furnace quits, if the sewer backs up, if there's any plumbing leaks found, if when they move other furniture out, there's mold found, all of that would be paid for. Essentially, I'm buying I buy a third-party insurance.
I was going to say you must
on their
insure for
behalf.
that.
Absolutely.
And then they would test the quality of your work, and that will indicate what you pay for insurance.
It's the same price. I pay the same price for every house.
No,
right?
but if you were to have a bunch of claims, that your cost of that insurance would go up.
I don't think so.
No?
No. I mean, I don't know. I don't have many claims.
No, I mean,
So,
from the third party
but I
insurer
don't
would
think
be
so.
like, we're not insuring you, Tara.
I'm not aware that they would do that.
Oh.
But
Sorry.
I will probably never know.
Exactly, because you're doing such a good job.
So yeah, I give that to all my clients. I submit all of the appliances to a recall check. So if there's ever been any recalls,
You'll do that work?
This is all part of this one program that and they get a report on all of that. Cool. Yeah. And then so they get this folder, and then I also this is what I spend my advertising money on. All my clients get a 25-foot tape measure.
Cool.
Yeah, that's both metric and imperial. So a tape measure for all the ages.
Right.
Yes.
You were sharing that you had some pictures to share.
Oh, yeah.
Were those of like horror stories?
Yeah.
So for the listeners, we'll make sure that we post those on the edited version of this. So again, please let's make sure we share the information and packaging that you share so that we can add it into this discussion for our listeners to understand what that looks like.
Yeah.
Awesome. We've had a really good chat. We're, I think, well over time, but is there anything we've missed? Anything that you'd like to share specifically for our audience that they might consider when looking into a home inspection, or really anything that you think that they should know before we shut this off today?
I think it's just really important to know, and I don't want to be down on the new guys, but there's a lot of new inspectors out there. I get calls at least once a week of new inspectors wanting to break into the field because they think it's going to be easy.
Right.
But I think it's really important to have an experienced inspector.
Totally.
And not just because of all the, they'll find out the stuff, but also it just in the way they can talk to the clients and to the buyers and to keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot of inspectors out there that can make a leak at an exhaust fan sound like your house is a teardown.
Yeah, a mountain out of a molehill.
Exactly.
Like the perspective I like about what I've heard here today is everything is manageable.
It is.
And also, most things are not necessary to repair. You just acknowledge it and you live with it. Or you need to repair it. But a lot of that is just the preference of the homeowner. So I love the approach that I feel you taking here, where it's like everything is manageable. Yeah. Some is just at a greater cost and greater inconvenience than others.
Yeah. So I just think it's a real value to make sure you're hiring an experienced home inspector that keeps things in perspective. Another thing that a lot of realtors, or a lot of people, I should say, not a lot, a few people, and if you read on the scary internet, don't ever take the referral of your realtor for your home inspector, because then that home inspector is going to do a light inspection.
Right.
And I think a lot of that's just bullcrap. Because for one, those realtors have seen maybe 100 different home inspectors.
Right.
And they're not referring the one that is going to do the light inspection. They're doing the one that's going to keep things in perspective for the client, find all the stuff, and just keep being realistic, but also not be scaring the client out of running away from everyday homeowner maintenance type issues.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that goes just back to, I'll call it what you would hope would be common business courtesy. Like, the realtor who is good and who you trust, why wouldn't you trust them with that referral? Now,
right.
If you don't trust them, why are you using them as a realtor?
You hired a professional for a reason as your realtor.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Now I could see the people that are just grinding and hiring, let's call it the least expensive realtor.
Yeah.
That realtor, you're probably not going to want to take their referral for the home inspector.
I mean, I get a lot of referrals from those 1%, 2%, whatever the company names are.
Okay.
I do, but because I still do a good job. Yeah. Right. And they're still a professional. They're just more bulk.
Different business model.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes down, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it goes down to trust. Like if you can't trust a referral of who you would hope would be a trusted advisor on the realtor side, then you probably didn't hire a trusted advisor.
Yeah. I mean, I've had people book inspections with me, and maybe it was a week out, And then days before the inspection, they're like, I just found out that you're also on my realtor's list of 3 or 5 inspector referrals. And they canceled. Because they just assume, oh, you're on that list. Even though they found me, accredited me, did all the research on their own, and they did.
Well, they did shitty research, pardon my language, because you can find every opinion on the internet.
Yeah.
You can find whatever opinion you want to on the internet.
Whatever you're looking for.
But again, if you actually look at both opinions and create an educated opinion, you probably haven't done that.
Well, but they had read that you should be afraid of your realtor's referral. That was what they believed. Right. So
but they can also read you should love your realtor's referral,
right?
And because you've done your research, you chose a good realtor. They are professionals. They are in the business for the long term. They're in the business to provide amazing value to you, and in turn, this is what you should be doing. So to that point, I guess the audience back on the internet is you can find all sorts of opinions on there.
Absolutely.
It's critical that you look at all opinions and form your own.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, before we let you go, how do people get a hold of you if they are looking for a home inspector in Calgary?
I have a website, there's 3 W's, www.calgaryinspection.ca. One of the tabs on there is for an inspection request. I'm going to be redoing the website right away, but at this time, it's one of the tabs at the top right-hand side. And then I'm always available email info@calgaryinspection.ca, or my phone number is 403-826-6111.
Amazing. Well, Terra, thank you so much for joining us. I know I learned a lot, so hopefully our listeners learned a bit, although most of them are a lot smarter than me. Thank you again, and thank pleasure. Everybody for joining us today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
That wraps up another episode of the Real Estate and Wealth Podcast. Be sure to hit that like button, share with fellow real estate enthusiasts, and subscribe to stay in the loop on all upcoming episodes. Get in touch with the team at Calvert Home Mortgage Investment Corporation by calling them at 1-888-752-4642 or email admin@chmic.ca. The opinions expressed in each episode belong to the individuals featured and do not represent the views of Calvert Home Mortgage. While we provide valuable insights, consulting with qualified professionals ensures that your unique financial circumstances are carefully considered, aligning your investments with your long-term objectives. Calvert Home Mortgage Investment Corporation is not a financial advisor, and we cannot advise you on making investments. There are risks to investing in real estate and the potential that you can lose all of your investment.